So the preliminary patch notes for patch 5.1, which is coming out on October 29th, have been released, and I have been itching to find out all of the new job changes, so let's get right into it. I'll be saying the change and then giving my own personal thoughts and opinions on it, and as someone who has leveled and played all classes to 80 and then taken them to a wide variety of content over the past few months, I think I can shed a little insight into how these changes might pan out. Due to the extremely large size of some of these changes, I will be breaking up my coverage into a few separate videos. Tanks and healers will be first, followed by DPS, followed by separate videos on Ninja and Summoner due to the incredible size of their changes coming around for patch 5.1. And so this video in particular is going to be focused on DPS, minus the Summoner and minus the Ninja, so if you're looking for those two, I'm not going to clickbait you, head on over and try and find my other video. It'll be released sometime soon after this. So without further ado, let's get right into the DPS changes. So for the Monk, we're going to see Rockbreaker change from a cone ability to a circle around the Monk itself, and in terms of how I feel, yes. Now, if only they did the same with Warrior's AoE rotation, because honestly, few things make it more weird and janky in AoE situations than to go from a cone to circle to the cone to the circle to the cone to the circle. It means that essentially you're going to miss some of the critters behind you during your natural rotation, and then if you position them all in front of you, you're going to miss some of the enemies that are far ahead with the circle, and it's just a mess. Now comes a change that really does concern me, and Mantra is being nerfed from 20 to 10%, and I do not like this, because Mantra was a cooldown that certainly did help healers during raids. Don't want this. Not looking forward to the extra damage. And then the Natman changes, I suppose it's removing its ability to participate in off global cooldown is significant, because now you need to wait the full 2.5 seconds or so to use it. So it's going to be a little harder to weave, a little bit more of a consideration instead of just popping it and then being like, oh, I'm just going to fill this during the global cooldown. Yeah, not an option. So we're going to have to see how that changes the actual final rotation. Now Dragoon. Oh, wow, I am happy that this is the changes, because that was the last ultimate guide I was working on that I have been like delaying for 2 weeks because I heard that Dragoon's going to get significant rotation changes. This means I don't need to scrap the entire thing. Also, it means a lot of good stuff for the Dragoons, so probably more relevant to everyone than my ultimate guide is that the Dragoon basically got some huge potency buffs across Get Circle gaining 30 potency and Mirage Dive and Star Diver giving you 50 more potency. This is going to result in every 30 seconds or so dealing about 80 more potency, and then on your ultimate ability during Life of the Dragon you're going to be getting 50 more potency. Earth Shaking? No. But without a doubt, this is a significant DPS boost to Dragoon and makes it a little bit more competitive with other melee DPS like Monk. Or well, Monk. Following that change is one of the biggest possible quality of life increases ever. Blood of the Dragon cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds to a total of 25 seconds, meaning that Blood of the Dragon never needs to fall off, and so you don't need to worry about slow pulling tanks. Hallelujah. So Dragoon, definitely getting a lot. Definitely impressed with this. Next up is Samurai, and Samurai has a huge number of changes, but thankfully it's only like half a page instead of like 2 or 3 pages like Ninja. So Meditate now has a maximum number of stacks obtainable reduced from 5 to 3, which is a huge quality of life increase, because basically less stacks to max it out means that you can use it far more often. It no longer has a duration, meaning that you can use it infinitely, which is helpful for long telegraphed raid-wide AoE like in Alexander, but now it's on the global cooldown instead of off global cooldown. Me personally, that's a trade I'm more than personally willing to make. Hagakure now increases the Kinky gauge by 5 more, and so now it's at 10, which is in my opinion nice, because it was frustrating only getting 5 Kinky when you were going into this branch of the 3 rotations, especially given the removal of the slashing debuff. I think it's fair. And now Tsubame Geishi apparently used to not be increased by skill speed or impacted by it, and now it is. Today I learned something new. Shohan now has 400 potency and doesn't scale at all anymore. It's just flat 400 potency no matter what you do, but now what it needs is 3 full stacks of meditation. Flip side is now it has a cooldown of 15 seconds, so you're not going to have to spam it if you somehow are able to. You need to wait a little bit. I'll take it personally. Old Shoha was something that I really wasn't a fan of, and it felt weak given how much it took to get, so this is something I'm going to take. This actually weaves into the next change, which is Higanbana, Tenka Goken, Midara Setsugaka, and all of the Keishi equivalents now give you stack of meditation. This means all of your special attacks are now going to be feeding and let you unleash a Shoha faster, and so that's the Shoha ability is now a much more integral part of your rotation, where I definitely remember that I've seen Samurai just completely skip the ability at all. I know that's probably not optimal, but from what I was seeing other people do in game, they were. And so Jinpu and Shifu have had their potencies decreased by 20, which is unfortunate nerf in my opinion. Yukikaze has been nerfed by a significant 40 potency, and I have to say that these are some of the most unwelcome changes by far for me, because Samurai already wasn't taken that seriously as a DPS by many people in the community. It wasn't being seen as a proper alternative to the Black Mage, and this really isn't going to help that, because essentially, does it offer as much as a Dragoon now? Does it offer as much as the Monk now? I don't know. We'll have to see. And lastly, Meikyo Shushi has now a quality of life upgrade showing the number of weapon skills that can be executed without combo requirements. I think that this is nice for people who weren't used to tracking it. For me though, I'm gonna be honest, this doesn't help much, but I've played Samurai since it was released, and I'm pretty sure that it is going to help a lot of people. I'm pretty sure on that. And in total, I'm not convinced that the Samurai changes are that good. I don't like the core rotation potency decreases at the cost of making Shoha usable. I felt since Samurai's release that it needed a bit more kick to it to make it a more reasonable Black Mage alternative for people who just want crazy high damage. And seeing the Shoha changes is nice, but the nerfs really make me curious what the final numbers are going to be for Samurai, especially when people optimize the rotation. We're going to have to hold on and see. Now, Bard has had a few changes that I am a huge fan of. Bard this expansion didn't really feel like buff-oriented or like a support, which was kind of like its major theme, especially last expansion. I love the extra utility I could bring to a party, and now with patch 5.1, finally Bard songs have some small additional buffs attached to each. Crazy powerful? Over the short term, no, but you know what? Over an entire fight, yeah. And so unlike the songs in Storeblood though, they aren't going to be all the songs a 2% increase to critical hit chance, and each song is going to have its own unique buff. Mage's Ballad boosts the damage dealt by all party members by 1%, Army's Peon increases all party members' direct hit rate by 3%, and lastly, Wanderer's Minuet increases the critical hit rate of party members by 2%, so we are getting that crit rate buff again. Yay! And I'm personally glad to see that we're getting some of this consistent Bard utility back this expansion, because I really felt that Bard lost a core part of its kit and likewise its identity with the consistent party buffs being stripped. Although unlike last expansion, now raid groups can't factor in a 2% consistent critical hit buff to the party, unlike they could before, and like factor this into their best in slot calculations due to its approximately 33% uptime now. That used to be something that they used to do. They used to be like, oh, okay, if we do this, then crit's gonna be good to this amount, but that's less of a thing now. Regardless, to me, this flavor is definitely a good change and very exciting. I'm very happy for it. Troubadour has had its recast time decreased from 180 to 120 seconds, which is something that all ranged DPS now have, and I think that it is a very welcome change. Letting them reduce all incoming damage much more frequently is going to be something that we feel through all leveling dungeons, all the way to Savage raiding. Definitely going to be felt. Next up, Sidewinder had its potencies actually increased, which you're going to see is actually shocking given what I'm going to cover after. One effect will give 25 more potency for a total of 200 potency, and two effects will give an additional full trade potency for a total of 300. Let's talk nerfs. What did the Bard pay for all the party utility above? So Apex Arrow potency used to be 500, now it's down to 120, and the maximum potency as the soul gauge increases is now only 600. Ow. Venomous Bite damage over time has been slashed by 10 potency per tick, same with Wind Bite, meaning that your damage over time effects are hitting 20 less potency per tick. Ouch. Caustic Bite and Storm Bite likewise have had the same 10 potency per tick decrease, as these are essentially just upgrades to the last two, and yeah, you're still getting that same 20 less potency per tick, so ow. Lastly, Refulgent Arrow did lose 10 potency. Thankfully that's less than seeing every 3 seconds 20 less potency, but I'm not convinced that this is gonna as a whole make Bard's total raid DPS that much higher than it currently is, but we're really gonna have to hold on and see. Overall, I do however enjoy the flavor of the Bard much more, because now it definitely feels more support oriented, but there is definitely some pretty heavy hits to their potencies. So Machinist Tactician, like Bard's Troubadour, has been reduced to having a 120-second cooldown timer. This will be very helpful in everything from leveling to Savage raiding, as I said before. Definitely a fan of this. And Machinist, oh wow, have they had potency increases across the board. Split Shot, Slug Shot, and Clean Shot. You don't want to know how many takes I just did of that, because it's like a tongue twister. All have had 20 potency increases for a total of 60 more potency per rotation. However, their upgraded counterparts when you reach max level, Heated Split Shot, Heated Slug Shot, and Heated Clean Shot, have seen 20, 30, and 40 potency increases respectively, meaning that now you have a total of 90 more potency per rotation. That is huge in terms of buffs. Heat Blast now also has 20 more potency for a total of 220 potency. And lastly, a small quality of life change for Flamethrower is that now it is affected by skill speed. No one's gonna start using Flamethrower because of this. So Machinist is certainly going to hit a lot harder than before, minus Flamethrower, and no doubt about that. I am very curious to see where it ends up now numbers wise. And now Dancer is a class that everyone has had their eyes on. Their overall raid DPS contributions were shockingly lower than everyone expected. People were just like, oh yeah, Dancer's gonna have the hot top raid DPS because of all their buffs, and it didn't quite meet expectations. However, in terms of the changes, they really came more in the form of more personal DPS buffs, which when I'm playing the Dancer, I want more of the buffing fantasy, but nonetheless, these are pretty huge changes. Every single one of their core DPS abilities has had a 50 potency increase, so Cascade is up from 200 to 250, Fountain from 250 to 300, and Rising Windmill and Blood Shower are now also up by 50 each. So there's no denying that this is going to be a staggeringly large boost to the single target damage contributions of the Dancer. Like, I am not even going to come close to questioning it. That's huge. And lastly, the Dancer's defensive utilities have been boosted as well. Following Troubadour and Tactician, the Shield Samba ability now has had its recast time decreased to only being 2 minutes in duration, and Curing Waltz saw a much needed potency increase from 200 to 300. It still seems small, but in my opinion, stacking with your partner for 600 potency during such as raid-wide damage is going to be a great boost, and that's definitely going to be something that really takes a lot of pressure off your healers. And in terms of Black Mage, they're clearly really happy with the Black Mage because it just got a quick quality of life change with triple cast now showing the number of spells that can be cast immediately. That's it. And yeah, Black Mage is really kind of king of the hill right now, there's no doubt about that. And then just as a reminder, Summoner and Ninja are going to be getting their own personal videos because they had extremely extensive reworks, and this video would probably be an hour long if I tried to stuff everything together. The Red Mage is also another class that a lot of people had a lot of eyes on because they're just like, okay, this brings a lot of utility, but its DPS is way lower than we want it to be. The Red Mage, I can tell you, you are going to be extremely excited by some of these buffs. Red Mage's acceleration ability now applies to the next 3 Ver Thunder, Ver Flare, Ver Arrow, or Ver Holy spells cast. It has a 20-second duration up from 10, and recast time has been increased from 35 to 55 seconds. But on the flip side, the effect is so much more powerful, it's actually slightly ridiculous. So for anyone really unfamiliar with what acceleration ability does, this ability is going to guarantee that you're going to be able to cast upgraded spells under Ver Fire and Ver Stone ready. Ver Stone and Ver Fire hit for a potency of 270, whereas Jolt 2 hits for 250 potency. And so this is a tap more potency for Red Mage for sure. So you're getting 20 more potency from that jump. However, as you're going to hear in a little bit, these abilities were actually buffed too. Let's continue on and we'll get to that later. Moulinette has a decent quality of life increase with increased range, but Moulinette has a decent quality of life increase with increased range, but because this ability is an AoE cone, this actually means a little bit more than that even. It means that it's going to be easier to hit further back enemies and probably increases Red Mage's dungeon AoE damage a significant bit as a result. Contra 6 has now a 30 potency increase to 380, Jolt 2 has an increase in potency by 30 to 280, and Reprisal now has a 50 potency increase to 300. And if you remember me talking about acceleration earlier alongside Jolt 2 buffs, now we have seen that the rest of the Red Mage core abilities are getting buffed as well. For Thunder and for Arrow now hit 350, 40 potency up from 310, and so that's a staggeringly huge boost. And now Ver Fire and Ver Stone hit 330 potency up from 270. So honestly, all in all, this is a massive increase to Red Mage's potential damage output. Their color rotation now hits dramatically harder, and no doubt this is going to make Red Mage more significantly competitive with other DPS jobs, and given their utility, I am very interested to see what they do, because remember, they also do bring that raid-wide damage buff as well. So yeah, I'm really curious at this point. And that is all for the DPS coverage, and remember, Summoner and Ninja are in their own separate video, and thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want to help support me, then if you'd leave a like or subscribe, that'd go a really super duper long way to helping me and is super appreciated. And so now, time to get working on those Ninja and Summoner videos. Thank you so much, and I hope to catch you on the next one.